What if the children you'd sworn to protect weren't yours? The silence in the room was deafening. Prince Harry sat at the edge of the oak desk in his Montecito study, hands trembling, eyes fixed on the envelope in front of him. It was ordinary, white, sealed, clinical, but it may as well have been ticking. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. He didn't want to open it. Because if he did, he knew his world might never be the same again. But what if the damage had already been done? What if everything he feared was true? And what if the biggest lie in his life had been sleeping under his roof all along? The calm before the collapse. Just weeks before the DNA results arrived, life in the Montecito mansion appeared picture-perfect. Harry and Meghan, smiling for the cameras, sipping on pressed juices, doting on Archie and baby Lillibet during afternoon strolls. But behind the gates, something was wrong. Off. Quiet arguments, suspicious glances, deleted messages. And Harry, once the cheeky, carefree spare, had become cold, distant, obsessed. With what? The truth. The rumors had been hounding them for years, sure. Trolls online, royal whisperers, tabloid headlines dancing with scandal. Are they really Harry's? The Crown demands a test. Who is Archie's real father? But Harry had always ignored them, brushed them off, laughed even, until he couldn't, because someone close to him, very close, had quietly dropped a bombshell that detonated everything he thought he knew. The phone call that shattered the illusion. It started with a call, not from a stranger, not from a journalist, from someone Harry once trusted more than anyone. "Mate, there's something you need to see." The voice on the other end was calm, careful, cautious. It wasn't a threat, it was a warning, and it came with an attachment, a photograph. One that, at first glance, seemed harmless. Just a man holding a baby. But not just any man, and not just any baby, because the child in that photograph looked exactly like Archie. Not similar, not a passing resemblance. Exactly. Same hair curl, same tilt of the nose, same faint dimple when he grinned. Harry stared at the image until the edges blurred. His heart thundered in his chest. No caption, no explanation, just 5 haunting words from his friend. "You deserve to know everything." A lie that kept growing. From the beginning, Harry had trusted Meghan completely. He had defended her against the press, against his family, against the institution. He walked away from the royal family for her. But what if, just what if, the one person he gave up everything for hadn't told him everything? It started small. Forgotten timelines, confused stories, overlapping trips, whispers about a mysterious man who helped Meghan when she was still figuring things out. At first, Harry chalked it up to nerves, media stress, the pressure of a young family. But deep down, the doubt had started to grow, quietly, like a crack beneath polished glass. Invisible at first, until one day, the whole thing shattered. Do they even look like me? It's a question no father should ever have to ask. And yet, Harry found himself staring at childhood photos of himself, side by side with Archie and Lilibet. He studied the eyes, the jawline, the ears, the freckles. And the more he looked, the more confused he became. Not because his children didn't look beautiful. They did. But because, in subtle, unsettling ways, they didn't look like him. It gnawed at him. He Googled genetic inheritance charts, spoke with a discreet private doctor, took photos of Archie's hands when he was sleeping. And finally, when the weight of not knowing became too heavy, he made a decision. He ordered the test. Privately, anonymously, behind Meghan's back. And when the package arrived, he hesitated. Because he already knew, didn't he? The ticking time bomb of truth. Why does it matter now? Why should we care about a DNA test between royals? Because this isn't just about paternity. It's about power. It's about betrayal. It's about the crumbling of a global fairy tale in real time. Millions watched Harry and Meghan's love story unfold. A glamorous American actress swoops in, the rebellious prince breaks ranks, and they escape the gilded cage of monarchy. A new life, new family, new future. But behind that dream, a secret was growing. One that could change not just their lives, but the very bloodline of the royal family. If Archie and Lilibet weren't Harry's, what did that mean? For their titles? For their inheritance? For the monarchy? And worst of all, for Harry's identity as a father? Meghan's mysterious breakdown. In the days leading up to the reveal, Meghan had grown strange. She spent hours alone, would vanish on long drives with no explanation. Once, she disappeared for 72 hours, claiming it was a mental clarity retreat. But when she returned, she looked shaken, disheveled, almost scared. She asked Harry strange questions. Do you think we're good people? Would you still love me if I made a mistake? Do you believe in forgiveness? Harry thought she was just struggling under media pressure. But now, looking back, he wondered, had she known the truth all along? The diary no one was meant to read. Some say truth comes out in whispers. Others say it hides in plain sight. But in Meghan's case, it was tucked between the pages of a leather-bound diary she kept locked in a drawer beneath her perfume bottles. One evening, when Meghan was gone, Harry opened it. He hadn't meant to, but something drew him in, and what he read in those pages. About late nights in London, tearful confessions to an old friend, and a mysterious moment under the stars with M.A. left him sick to his stomach. She had lied. But why? And worse, who was M.A.? This isn't just about Harry. This story isn't about scandal for scandal's sake. This is about identity, about trust, about what happens when the very foundation of your life is ripped away without warning. It's about a man who gave up everything, his crown, his family, his country, only to discover the one thing he thought he could rely on was built on a lie. It's about a woman who may have loved him, who may still love him, but who kept a truth from him so enormous it detonated everything. It's about children, inheritance, bloodlines, secrets, and what happens when the truth doesn't just knock, it kicks the door in. And just when he thought he knew everything, Harry sat with the envelope in his lap. His fingers hovered over the edge. His chest burned. His mind raced. His memories blurred. He tore it open. He read the first line, and then he screamed. But what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. What if the first betrayal didn't come from the one you married, but the one you grew up with? Harry's scream wasn't rage. It wasn't even pain. It was the kind of primal sound that breaks loose when something inside you dies, suddenly, silently, and completely. He dropped the envelope on the floor like it was on fire. His breathing turned ragged. The walls around him blurred. The letters on the page might as well have been in another language. Because this couldn't be real. The results were supposed to say what he always believed, that Archie and Lilibet were his, that the rumors were just noise, that the whispering voices and late-night doubts were lies cooked up by tabloids desperate for clicks. But they weren't. And now he had proof. The knock. Harry barely had time to process what he was reading when a knock echoed through the hallway. It was soft, hesitant. He flinched, wiped his face, tried to breathe. He stuffed the DNA report under a stack of papers just as the door opened. A face peeked in. Not Meghan, not a royal aide, not even a security guard. It was someone far more unexpected. William. Yes, Prince William. I knew you'd find out eventually. Let's pause here. Why was William, the future King of England, standing in Harry's Montecito study, uninvited? That's a question Harry asked too. Only he didn't speak it. He couldn't. His voice had vanished. William stepped inside, closed the door gently, and stood still. No smile. No sneer. Just a strange, heavy calm. I knew you'd find out eventually, he said quietly. Harry's eyes narrowed. Find out what? He croaked, already knowing the answer. William looked down, and then he did something Harry hadn't seen in years. He cried. Brothers torn apart, reunited by a lie. You remember their relationship, right? They were the golden boys of Diana's legacy. Brothers in arms, side by side at her funeral, laughing in uniform, teasing each other during royal engagements. But all of that shattered after Harry met Meghan. The wedding, the Megxit, the Oprah interview, accusations, cold shoulders, press wars. They weren't just estranged. They were enemies. Or so the world thought. But now, here they were, two sons of Diana, bound not by duty or blood, but by the shadow of a secret neither of them had asked for. William sat down across from Harry. Read the rest of it, he said. Harry blinked. What? William nodded toward the envelope still poking out from under the stack. There's a second page. The page no one was supposed to see. Harry's fingers shook as he pulled it out. The second sheet wasn't part of the standard DNA report. It was a handwritten note. From whom? That's where things get terrifying. Because the note wasn't from Meghan, or a doctor, or even an investigator. It was from someone Harry hadn't spoken to in over 2 years. Someone who was no longer supposed to have access to the family's personal files. Lady Susan Hussey. That's right. The Lady Hussey, former lady-in-waiting to Queen Elizabeth II, and once considered part of the monarchy's inner sanctum. The note read, "Harry, you deserve to know the truth, but I was ordered to keep silent. I'm sorry. This wasn't just about you. It was about the crown. I hope one day you'll understand. S.H." Harry read it 3 times. He felt his stomach turn. What had the palace been hiding? The dinner party that started the dominoes. Rewind 3 months. To an exclusive, invite-only dinner party in Los Angeles. A fundraiser officially, but unofficially, a hotbed for whispers, alliances, and veiled warnings. Harry was seated next to an A-list producer. Halfway through the meal, after the wine started flowing, the producer leaned in and said, "You know, Archie looks nothing like you." Harry laughed. It wasn't the first time he'd heard it. But then the man added, "Neither does Lillibet. You sure those kids are yours, bro?" It was said as a joke, but it wasn't funny. Harry's laugh stopped. His fork hovered. That comment planted the seed. A seed that would grow into full-blown obsession. The childhood friend who knew too much. A week after the party, Harry received a voice message. It was from an old friend. Not a royal, not a courtier, but someone from Harry's teenage years. Someone he once partied with in secret clubs, who saw both princes as people, not heirs. The message was short. "Mate, I've got something you need to see. It's about Archie. Call me." That was the first crack, the first whisper. And once Harry called back, the entire dam broke. Because that friend? He had photos, emails, a timeline. He also had a name. The name that made Harry snap. The name was Marcus. Marcus Anderson, close friend of Meghan. Soho House executive. The man credited with introducing Meghan to high society. And, according to the timeline, present during several of Meghan's mysterious solo trips. Harry tried to deny it, but the receipts were too clean. The hotel check-ins, the overlapping cities, the social media slips, and most damning of all, a photo from a baby shower, an angle the press hadn't seen before. Marcus, Meghan, a champagne glass in her hand resting on his knee. William's warning. "So why are you here?" Harry asked again, voice hoarse. William sighed. "Because I made the same mistake you did. I trusted them." Harry blinked. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying, you're not the only one who's been lied to." The air thickened. "You knew?" Harry whispered. "I suspected," William replied. "But they made me believe it was all a conspiracy. A smear campaign. They called it noise. Said you were being dramatic." Harry stared. "And you believed them?" William nodded. "I didn't want to. But they told me if I pushed, they'd leak something about Kate." A beat of silence. And they did. What the palace covered up. Let's be clear. The monarchy doesn't survive without control. Control of the press. Control of the narrative. Control of people. And when that control slips, they bury it. That's exactly what happened here. According to William, the palace had known for months, possibly years, that there were inconsistencies regarding Archie's paternity. A quiet investigation was launched. DNA tests conducted without Harry's knowledge. And the results? Filed away. Buried. Denied. Because acknowledging them would destroy more than a marriage. It would destroy the line. A call from the shadows. Right before Harry received the envelope, he got a call from a number he didn't recognize. The voice on the other end was old. Raspy. Tired. "Harry, you don't know me. But I worked for your grandmother. For decades. I saw everything. Heard everything." Pause. "They lied to you." The line went dead. The next day, the package arrived. The results. The note. And the truth. "They lied to you, too." William stood up. "I shouldn't have come. But I thought, maybe this time, we don't let them win." Harry looked up. "For once, we do something together," William continued. "Not for the crown. Not for the press. But for the truth." The brothers stared at each other. Broken. Betrayed. Alone. But perhaps together again? Harry nodded slowly. And then his phone buzzed. One new voicemail. From Meghan. A whispering voice. Shaky. Nervous. Raw. "Harry, I need to tell you something. Before you hear it from someone else." But what came next would shake Harry to his core. What if the truth wasn't in what she said, but in what she left out? Harry played the voicemail twice. Then a third time. Each time, Meghan's voice sounded more desperate, more hollow. She wasn't crying. Not yet. But he could hear the strain, the trembling in her breath. There was no explanation in the message. No confession. Just a warning. A soft, slow, almost rehearsed voice whispering. Harry, I need to tell you something. Before you hear it from someone else. Please call me. Please. But it was already too late. Because Harry had already heard it. He just hadn't understood it. Not until he saw the photo. The frame on the fireplace. They'd walked past it 100 times. A simple silver frame. Resting on the fireplace mantel. A warm, happy memory. Or so Harry thought. It was a candid shot. Meghan cradling Archie, just a few weeks old. Her hair was pulled back. The baby swaddled in a light blue blanket. At first glance, it was beautiful. But that day? After the voicemail, after the DNA results, after William's visit, Harry looked at it differently. Really looked. And something was off. The eyes. Those aren't my eyes. He muttered the words aloud, as if needing to hear them outside his head. Those aren't my eyes. Because they weren't. Archie's eyes in that photo weren't just a different shade. They were a different shape altogether. Almond-like. Wider apart. He pulled out an old childhood photo of himself, age 2. Then one of Prince Charles. And one of his mother, Diana. None of them matched. Not even close. And then, he made a mistake. A catastrophic one. He Googled Marcus Anderson baby photos. What he saw chilled him. The face that haunted him. The photo was from a throwback Instagram post years ago. Marcus, around 2 years old, dressed in a little sailor outfit. Smiling. Same eyes. Same faint cleft in the chin. Same wild swirl in the hairline. An exact match to Archie's. It was like looking at a ghost copy. Harry's heart sank. This wasn't paranoia anymore. This wasn't doubt. This was resemblance. Plain, unmistakable, inescapable. And that's when something clicked in Harry's mind. This wasn't the only photo. There was another. One that had haunted him for months, but that he had dismissed. Until now. The hidden iCloud album. Every couple has secrets. And sometimes they're digital. Harry never snooped. Never needed to. But that morning, curiosity beat loyalty. He opened Meghan's MacBook. Entered the family passcode. Navigated to the Photos app. She'd forgotten to turn off syncing. And there, buried under shared albums, was a locked folder titled LA Archive. He clicked. Required Face ID. He hesitated. Then he remembered. Months ago, Meghan had added his face to unlock their devices in case of emergency. He angled the screen toward himself. Click. Unlocked. And there it was. The poolside snapshot. It was taken at a private estate in Los Feliz. Date stamped. 3 months before their engagement. In the photo, Meghan. Marcus. Sunlight behind them. Marcus shirtless, smiling. Meghan lying next to him. Her hand on his chest. Her hair soaking wet. Not scandalous, yet. Until Harry swiped to the next image. It was blurry. Taken from a distance. Meghan, wrapped in a towel. Marcus, behind her. Their faces close. Too close. And Meghan's expression? Fear. Excitement. Guilt. All at once. Harry's hand trembled as he zoomed in. The timestamp confirmed it. A week after she'd returned from visiting Harry in London for the first time. He was already falling for her. And she may have still been seeing someone else. We were on a break. It sounds like a bad sitcom excuse. But that's exactly what Meghan would later say in her defense. When Harry finally confronted her about the photos, her voice cracked, and she whispered, "We weren't exclusive yet. I didn't even know if we were serious. You were still figuring things out with the palace." But Harry didn't hear that. All he heard was, "I lied. I lied to you from the beginning." And in that moment, the trust they'd built, the secret getaways, the Netflix dreams, the podcast promises, the us against the world fantasy, it all felt fake. Like he'd been the only one playing for keeps. The birthroom detail that won't go away. Let's back up. When Archie was born, something strange happened. Harry told close friends that Meghan refused to let him in the room for part of the labor. Said she wanted privacy. At the time, he respected it. Assumed it was trauma-related. Or stress. But now, he saw it differently. What if she wasn't hiding her body? What if she was hiding a moment? Like a phone call? A conversation? A document? The birth certificate itself was modified weeks later, a move the palace never explained fully. At the time, Meghan's camp blamed royal policy. But sources now say it was Meghan's decision to remove her full name. and changed the attending physician. Why? Doria's warning. After seeing the photo, Harry did something he hadn't done in months. He called Doria, Megan's mother. She answered quickly, but cautiously. Harry didn't waste time. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. There was silence on the other end. Then Doria said, You already know, don't you? Harry's breath caught. Doria sighed. I told her to tell you, before it got too far. But she was scared. Scared of what? Of losing you. Of losing the life. Of losing everything. Harry sat down. He was shaking now. She told me it didn't mean anything, Doria continued. She said it was over before you proposed. But is he mine? Doria paused. I don't know. I really don't. The moment Megan cried. Later that evening, Megan came home. She saw the photo on the screen before she saw Harry. Her eyes widened. And for a split second, she didn't try to lie. She just collapsed, dropped to her knees, hands over her mouth, and sobbed. Not loud, not dramatic. Just the soft, broken cries of someone whose world was falling apart. Harry didn't scream. He didn't accuse. He just stared. And then Megan looked up, tears streaming down her face, and whispered, I'm sorry. I thought he was just helping me feel loved again. I didn't think. But she never finished the sentence. Because Harry stood up, walked out, and slammed the door behind him. The one thing that didn't make sense. Here's where the story gets even darker. Because while the photo was damning, there was still one thing that didn't make sense. The DNA results. They showed inconsistencies, but not a clear paternal match with Marcus Anderson, which meant one of two things. Marcus wasn't the father, or there was someone else, and Megan's silence on the subject was starting to speak volumes, especially after what was found in her journal. But that's another story, and what Harry discovered next would make the photo look like child's play. Why does the truth always surface right after someone disappears? Megan didn't come home that night. Not after Harry walked out. Not after the tears. Not after the apology that never quite became a confession. The house stayed quiet long after midnight. No footsteps on the stairs. No soft humming from the kitchen. No whispered phone calls behind closed doors. Just silence. And silence, Harry would later realize, was the loudest sound of all. The morning after that never came. Harry didn't sleep. He sat on the edge of the guest bed, staring at the wall, replaying everything in his head on a brutal loop. The photo, the voicemail, Doria's pause, Megan on her knees, and the question he still didn't have the courage to say out loud. Who else was there? When the sun finally rose, he checked his phone. No messages. No missed calls. Nothing. That's when he knew. This wasn't space. This was flight. She's gone. The head of security was the one who confirmed it. She left around 4:18 a.m., he said carefully. No announcement. No argument. Just left. Harry's jaw tightened. Where? The guard hesitated. Private SUV. No destination listed. No destination. That phrase echoed in Harry's head like a warning siren. Because Megan never traveled without a plan. Never without assistance, schedules, talking points. This was different. This was panic. The bag that gave it away. There was one thing she hadn't taken. A garment bag. Harry found it in the closet, half-zipped, shoved behind winter coats that didn't belong in California. Inside were 3 outfits. All dark. Conservative. Nothing flashy. The kind of clothes you wear when you don't want to be seen. Tucked into the side pocket was a folded document. A boarding confirmation. Private charter. Destination, Vancouver. Departure time, 6:45 a.m. Harry checked the clock. It was already 7:12. She was gone. The pattern no one wanted to see. Here's what most people missed. This wasn't the first time Megan had disappeared when things got uncomfortable. Years earlier, during moments of public scrutiny, she had done the same thing. Toronto, London, New York. Each time, she framed it as self-care, mental health, boundaries. And each time, the explanation worked. Because people wanted to believe it. Harry wanted to believe it. But now, stripped of denial, the pattern looked different. It wasn't escape. It was avoidance. The burner phone. Harry found it by accident. A small device tucked inside a makeup pouch beneath the bathroom sink. Cheap. No passcode. No contacts saved. Just call logs. Dozens of calls. All to the same number. International. Untraceable. The most recent one? 3 minutes before Megan left the house. Harry stared at the screen, his reflection faintly visible in the glass. He pressed dial. It rang once, twice, then stopped. A message appeared. Number no longer in service. The wellness retreat that didn't exist. Within hours, Meghan's team released a statement. Meghan has taken a brief personal retreat to focus on wellness and family. No location, no photos, no updates. But Harry knew better, because when he called the retreat mentioned in the statement, they had no record of her. Not now. Not ever. So where was she really? The kids asked questions. Archie asked first, "Where's Mommy?" Harry froze. How do you explain betrayal to a child who still believes in bedtime stories? She's taking some time, Harry said softly. Archie frowned. Did I do something wrong? That was the moment something inside Harry snapped. No, he said quickly, kneeling down. No, this isn't because of you. Ever. But the damage was already done. Because children feel absence before they understand it. And Lillibet, too young to speak, cried that night longer than usual, almost as if she sensed something was missing. Or someone. The call from Canada. It came just before midnight. Blocked number. Harry answered. Meghan's voice was barely above a whisper. I didn't know what else to do. Where are you? Harry asked. Silence. Are you with him? A sharp intake of breath. No, not like that. Then how? Another pause. I needed to think. I needed to be somewhere safe. Safe from who? From the truth. But she didn't say that. Instead, she said something else. Something that made Harry grip the phone tighter. There's more. About the kids. About before. Harry closed his eyes. Tell me now. I can't. Not over the phone. Why not? Because someone was listening. The third name. This is where the story takes a turn most people didn't expect. Because while Harry obsessed over Marcus, the DNA results suggested something else entirely. Another male profile. Partial match. Someone with a genetic overlap that didn't belong to Harry. Or Marcus. Which meant one thing. There was a third man. Someone whose DNA had crossed paths with Meghan's at exactly the wrong moment. Someone close enough to avoid suspicion. Someone protected by silence. Harry had asked William about it. William had gone pale and said only 4 words. Please be careful with this. The deleted calendar entries. Back in Montecito, Harry went deeper. He accessed Meghan's old cloud backups, files she thought were deleted. Calendars from years ago. Entries scrubbed clean, but not completely. One recurring appointment remained. Just a letter. M. Always on Tuesdays. Always late at night. Always marked private. And always during periods when Meghan claimed she was working late or meeting friends. Harry cross-referenced the dates. They lined up. With trips. With absences. With moments she couldn't explain. The friend who went silent. Harry reached out to someone who had been around during those early days. A woman who used to travel with Meghan. A confidant. She didn't respond. Then Harry noticed something odd. Her social media was gone. Instagram deleted. Twitter wiped. LinkedIn deactivated. Vanished. Just like Meghan. The press gets a scent. By the 3rd day, rumors started to leak. Paparazzi gathered outside the gates. Headlines began to circulate. Royal rift deepens. Sources say Meghan taking space. Harry reportedly distraught. None of them knew the truth. Not yet. But they could smell it. And once the press smells blood, they don't stop. The email Meghan didn't mean to send. It arrived in Harry's inbox at 2:03 a.m. Addressed to someone else. Forwarded accidentally. The subject line read, I should have told him sooner. Harry opened it. Read it once. Twice. Then felt his hands go numb. Because in that email, Meghan wrote something that confirmed his worst fear. He's starting to suspect the second test. I don't think we can stop it anymore. Second test. There it was. Proof that the first DNA test wasn't the only one. Proof that Meghan knew more than she'd admitted. And proof that whatever she was running from was about to catch up with her. The line that changed everything. At the end of the email, one sentence stood out. One sentence that reframed everything. If Harry finds out who it really is, he'll never forgive me. Harry stared at the screen. His heart pounded. His mind raced. Who was it? And how many people had helped keep this secret? Because suddenly, this wasn't just about Meghan lying. This was about an entire web of silence. And the next thread Harry pulled would unravel all of it. What if the person you thought was your protector was actually protecting a secret from you? Tyler Perry had always been painted as the unlikely hero of the Sussex saga. When Harry and Meghan fled the UK in a media firestorm, who gave them a home? Tyler. When they needed privacy, security, and a place to figure things out, who stepped in without hesitation? Tyler, a billionaire, a Hollywood mogul, a man with no royal blood, no official title, and no agenda, supposedly. But what if that narrative was incomplete? What if Tyler Perry wasn't just helping them hide from the press, but helping Meghan hide something else? The mansion with no cameras. When Harry moved into Tyler Perry's $18 million Beverly Hills estate in early 2020, he felt relief for the first time in months. No paparazzi, no royal courtiers, no red flags, at first. But there was one strange detail Harry never questioned back then. The estate had no working security cameras in several key areas. Back entrances, the east hallway, the guest house. I just never got around to finishing the upgrades, Tyler had said casually. Harry, exhausted, didn't think twice. Now he couldn't stop thinking about it. The guest house Meghan never left. During their stay, Meghan spent an unusual amount of time in the guest house, alone. She said it was for meditation, peace, creative writing. Harry respected her space, supported her healing. But over time, he noticed things. Whispers behind locked doors. Phone calls she wouldn't take in front of him. Days when she wouldn't let the staff enter. And nights when she came back shaken, eyes red, silent. He asked once, gently, "Is everything okay?" She nodded, but said nothing else. Now, looking back, it felt like a cover. Not for trauma, but for planning. The man in the baseball cap. One day, while walking the grounds, Harry caught a glimpse of someone. A man, wearing a baseball cap, face obscured, exiting the guest house through the side door. By the time Harry reached the path, the man was gone. When he asked Meghan, she said it was a delivery person, but the staff said they hadn't scheduled anything. And the cameras? Conveniently disabled in that section of the property. Harry didn't press it then, but it stayed with him. And now, as he pieced everything together, Doria's warning, the second DNA test, the Vancouver trip, the memory of that man resurfaced. Because he wasn't just a stranger. He was the key, the security contract that didn't add up. After Meghan's sudden disappearance to Canada, Harry began digging deeper. He requested documents, financials, travel logs. One file stood out, the private security agreement Tyler Perry had funded during their initial stay. The terms were airtight and oddly specific. Certain locations were marked off limits to external staff. Certain sensitive visitors didn't require documentation. Certain events, like birth appointments or medical consultations, were coded as personal and had no traceable entries. Why? Who were they protecting? Or more precisely, what were they hiding? The day of Lillibet's ultrasound. According to Meghan, Tyler Perry arranged transportation for her to attend an ultrasound alone, while Harry was on a call with lawyers. She claimed it was routine. But when Harry asked about the visit later, something didn't sit right. She couldn't recall the name of the clinic, or the doctor, or even the exact date. Odd for a first-time mother. When he searched medical records, nothing showed up. But Tyler's staff log indicated that someone had been picked up and dropped off that day. And surveillance footage? Once again, missing. Disabled due to maintenance. Always the same excuse. Always the same day. The encrypted folder. After weeks of silence, Meghan finally sent Harry a file. Encrypted. Password protected. No explanation. The file name? Truth. Harry hesitated. Entered one of her usual passwords. It didn't work. Tried again. Failed. On the fourth try, he entered a phrase Meghan used to say when they first met. Together, not apart. Click. Unlocked. Inside were three things. A scanned letter. Handwritten. A photo. Cropped. Blurry. An email thread between Meghan and someone with a private address ending in @tpstudios.com. Tyler Perry Studios. The letter. The letter was addressed to Meghan. From Tyler. Handwritten. Warm. But cryptic. You've been through more than most could handle. I'm here to help you bury it, not dig it up. Whatever choice you make, I'll support you. You deserve peace. Just know, secrets kept for survival don't always stay hidden. That last line stuck with Harry like a splinter. Secrets kept for survival. Was Tyler suggesting he knew? Had he been aware the entire time? Had he helped manage the optics? The photo. The second item in the file was grainy, almost too blurry to decipher. But the angle looked familiar. A hallway, a dim light, a woman in profile, Meghan, and beside her, That same man in the baseball cap. Closer this time. His hand near hers. Their bodies just inches apart. The timestamp? 3:14 a.m., 3 nights before they left Tyler's home for good. And the location matched the guest house. The camera? Likely hidden. Possibly installed by someone Tyler didn't know about. Or maybe by someone he did. The emails. The final file was an email thread. Tyler and Megan. Months before the Oprah interview. Subject line, prep plus timeline. It read like a PR war plan. Bullet points. Messaging strategies. And one curious phrase, written by Tyler. If any questions come up about paternity or timing, steer back to mental health and media harassment. We stay above the noise. No specifics. There it was. Written. Advised. Deliberate. Tyler Perry, meant to be their protector, had coached them on how to deflect any questions about the kids. And that meant he knew. Maybe not everything, but enough. The confrontation. Harry called him. It rang 4 times. Then Tyler answered. Calm. Like always. Hey man. Was wondering when I'd hear from you. Harry didn't waste time. I need you to be honest with me. A pause. About what? You know what. Another pause. Longer. I was trying to help. That's not what I asked. I didn't want to be the one to break it. It wasn't my truth to tell. But you knew. Silence. Then Tyler said. Yes. The deal that changed everything. Over the next hour, Harry learned more than he could handle. Tyler hadn't just offered sanctuary. He'd offered silence. In exchange for loyalty. He agreed to help Meghan protect her story in exchange for full media control over their early exit from the UK. He financed privacy. And in return, Meghan promised to follow the narrative. Not to protect herself, but to protect the children. Whose children? Harry asked quietly. Tyler didn't answer. But his silence was enough. A new name surfaces. Before they hung up, Tyler said something else. One sentence, barely above a whisper. You need to talk to Tom. Harry blinked. Tom who? But Tyler had already ended the call. No last name. No explanation. Just a new ghost to chase. And as Harry stared at the now empty call screen, he knew one thing for certain. He was getting closer. And what came next would make everything before it look like child's play. How do you prepare yourself to open an envelope that could destroy your past, your future, and your family? All at once. The name lingered in Harry's mind like smoke. Tom. Not Tyler. Not Marcus. Not any of the usual suspects. A new name. Unfamiliar. Or was it? He ran through every Tom he'd ever met. Every producer. Every aide. Every handler. Every friend of Meghan's. Every fleeting face from the parties, events, panels. Nothing fit. Until it did. Not a Tom, but a Dr. Tom. And just like that, another memory surfaced. One Harry hadn't thought about in years. The routine appointment that wasn't. It was during Meghan's first pregnancy, around the 6-month mark. Harry had been called away to a last-minute meeting with a charity board. Meghan had insisted on going to a prenatal consultation alone. Said it was just routine. She promised to FaceTime if anything happened. He never heard from her that day. When he got home, she was quiet. Said everything went fine. Nothing to worry about. But now, that memory didn't sit right. The clinic wasn't their usual one. The driver had been rerouted that morning without explanation. And the name she briefly mentioned over dinner, Tom, sounded eerily familiar. Private, quiet, discreet. Harry's security team did some digging. There was indeed a Dr. Thomas Renner in Beverly Hills, a specialist in confidential reproductive diagnostics, known for handling high-profile clientele. Celebrities, billionaires, and royals who preferred results off the record. No paperwork, no digital trail, just discreet, in-person consultations. Harry booked an appointment under a false name. When he arrived, the receptionist didn't flinch. Dr. Renner is expecting you. I never expected to see you. Dr. Renner was calm, older, graying at the temples, wearing a Rolex that cost more than some homes. He closed the door behind Harry and took a deep breath. I assume you're not here for a wellness check. Harry didn't blink. You ran a test for her. Renner nodded. I did. When? 2 weeks before Archie was born. Harry's heart thundered. And what were the results? Renner sighed. Before I answer that, there's something you need to see. The locked drawer. Dr. Renner moved to a steel drawer behind his desk, keyed in a code, pulled out a manila folder. No label, no markings, just a simple seal and a sticky note. Deliver only if asked face-to-face. Renner slid it across the desk. Harry hesitated. He had seen this before, this exact moment, with the first test. And yet, this felt worse. Because this wasn't something he requested. This was something Meghan had tried to bury. The second DNA test. Harry opened the file. It was a complete genetic report, far more detailed than the first. Blood markers, hair follicle analysis, Y chromosome tracking, all pointing to one conclusion. Archie was not a paternal match. Not with Harry. Not even close. Harry's vision blurred. His chest went hollow. But there was more. The report also included a second test, pre-birth paternity analysis for Lillibet. Same result. No match. Why didn't you tell me? Harry's voice cracked. Renner looked down. I wanted to. Then why didn't you? Because she begged me not to. Harry stood up, pacing. Did she say why? She said she was scared, that the truth would ruin everything. Harry's jaw clenched. It did. The deal. Dr. Renner then revealed something else. Meghan hadn't come alone. She'd been accompanied by a lawyer. One Harry had never heard of. And the test? It had been conducted under an alias. No record of her real name. No trace of the results. And, as part of the agreement, Dr. Renner was compensated generously for his silence. Harry stared at him. You took a bribe? Renner met his gaze. I took a deal. Because your wife made it clear. This was about protecting her child, not deceiving you. Harry's voice dropped. But it was deception. A shocking admission. As Harry stood to leave, Dr. Renner said one last thing. There's something else about the biological father. Harry froze. Renner continued. He's not a stranger to you. What? Renner pulled out another document. A redacted identity file. Only one word wasn't blacked out. Royal. Harry blinked. Are you telling me the real father is in the royal family? Renner gave a small, grim nod. I'm telling you. You're not just being lied to by Meghan. You've been lied to by everyone. The diary entry that confirms it. Harry rushed home. Shaking. Numb. Furious. He tore through the drawer where Meghan kept her journals. One stood out. Brown leather, dog-eared, tear-stained. He opened to a random page. And there it was. An entry dated exactly 1 week before Archie's birth. I'm terrified. What if they find out? What if the resemblance becomes too obvious? He said the crown would protect me. But what about H? What about the baby? How can I live knowing one brother fathered this child, while the other one raises him? Harry dropped the book. His breath caught. His chest collapsed inward. One brother fathered this child, while the other one raises him. There were only two possibilities. Him, or William. The last line, but the next line, made his blood run cold. If Harry ever learns the truth, I'll lose everything. But if William confesses, the monarchy will never recover. So we say nothing. Not ever. Harry staggered backward. He couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process. Because if what she wrote was true, the father of Meghan's children wasn't Marcus, or Tom, or any stranger. It was William, his brother, his blood, his betrayal. But what came next? That would make even this look small. What happens when the person you've loved through everything looks you in the eye and says, I lied? Harry didn't cry. Not this time. Because even heartbreak has a limit. And once you cross it, tears feel pointless. He sat in the dim hallway of their Montecito mansion, diary still open in his lap, eyes frozen on that one sentence that obliterated his entire reality. If William confesses, the monarchy will never recover. His ears rang with silence. The same kind of silence you hear when your trust has been dragged into a back alley and stabbed a dozen times. He thought of everything they'd been through. Megxit, the tabloids, the Oprah interview, the tears, the Netflix special. All of it, built on a lie. The knock at the door. It came hours later. Soft, nervous, familiar. Harry opened the door. There stood Meghan. Pale, tired, hair messy, eyes sunken, dressed in oversized black. Her face looked thinner, older, like someone who had spent days running from ghosts only to realize they were following her everywhere. She didn't say anything at first. She just looked at him. Then, she whispered, I thought you'd be gone. Harry stepped aside. Wordlessly, she entered. But nothing about the house felt like home anymore. We have to talk. They sat across from each other in the living room. No coffee, no tea, no small talk. Just oxygen filled with tension. Meghan stared at the floor. Harry stared at her. Finally, he spoke. Why William? Meghan's breath hitched. She opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out. He repeated it. Softer this time. Why, William? Her hands trembled. She rubbed them against her thighs like she was trying to erase something only she could see. Then, without lifting her eyes, she said, "It wasn't supposed to happen. The party at Clarence's house." She began to explain. It was before she and Harry had gone public. Before the world knew. There had been a formal dinner hosted at Clarence's house. A small gathering. Royals, aides, a few media partners, some foreign dignitaries. Harry had been delayed flying back from Africa. Meghan was invited by Charles as a private guest. She hadn't expected William to be there. But he was. And according to her, he was kind, curious, surprisingly warm. It wasn't what you think, she said. It was never meant to be anything. But never meant to didn't erase what was. The wine, the fire, the mistake. It was late. The guests had left. Meghan stayed behind to thank the staff. William was in the study. She passed by. He offered her a glass of wine. They talked, laughed, nothing inappropriate. Until it was. Meghan said it started with a conversation about loneliness, about being outsiders in different ways. Everything happened so fast, she said. It didn't feel real. It felt like a dream I woke up from and couldn't believe I'd had. Harry's hands clenched. He felt nauseous, not just because of what she was saying, but because part of him believed her. I thought it was over. According to Meghan, after that night, she cut off all communication, blocked numbers, deleted messages, moved forward. And then she met Harry, for real. This time, it wasn't wine or warmth or confusion. It was love, and she never looked back. But secrets don't stay buried just because you pretend they're dead. The pregnancy panic. When Meghan realized she was pregnant with Archie, she says her world caved in. Because of timing. Because of silence. Because of what if. She didn't tell Harry right away. She didn't even tell herself the truth. Until the anxiety made her sick. That's when she secretly reached out to a doctor recommended by someone in the family, Dr. Thomas Renner. She wanted to know the truth without destroying Harry. But once she knew, she couldn't bring herself to tell him. Not after everything they'd built. Not after what he gave up for her. Not after he looked her in the eyes and called her his future. So she lied. I tried to tell you. Meghan leaned in now, desperate, voice cracking. I tried to tell you, Harry. So many times. But every time I opened my mouth, I saw your face. I saw how happy you were. How safe you felt. She wiped a tear. I was going to tell you after Archie was born. Then after the Oprah interview. Then after Lily. Then. I couldn't anymore. I kept thinking, if I just waited a little longer, the lie would somehow become the truth. Harry stayed silent. He didn't move. He barely breathed. I don't know if I deserve you. Meghan's eyes met his. And for the first time in a very, very long time, she looked broken. Not performative. Not media-ready. Just human. I don't know if I deserve you, she whispered. I don't know if I ever did. But I loved you. I still do. She stood, shaky on her feet. If you want me to go, I'll go. Harry didn't answer. He couldn't. Because everything inside him was at war. Love and betrayal. Loyalty and rage. The past and a future he no longer recognized. Are they even my children? The question escaped his lips before he could stop it. Meghan froze. Her breath caught in her throat. Are they even mine? He said it louder this time. Tell me. Meghan's shoulders collapsed. I don't know, she said, barely audible. I don't know. Harry felt the words tear through his chest. Every sacrifice he'd made. Every headline he'd endured. Every fight with his family. All for a story that might not have even been his. Then why did you let me believe it? Meghan dropped to her knees again. I didn't know what else to do. I was alone. I was terrified. And then, I loved them. I loved watching you love them. Tears rolled freely now. I thought if I kept it hidden, maybe it would go away. But it didn't. It got worse. And by the time I realized I couldn't hide it anymore, I didn't know how to not lie. Harry felt the sting in every word. Because deep down, he already knew. He'd known for months. But what he didn't expect was what she said next. It wasn't just William. Harry blinked. What? Meghan looked away. There's a chance, the small chance, it could be someone else. He stood up like he'd been electrocuted. Who? She didn't answer. Who, Meghan? She whispered the name. And it wasn't Marcus. It wasn't Tom. It wasn't anyone in Hollywood. It was someone inside Buckingham Palace. A name that had appeared in Harry's nightmares more than once. a man his mother once warned him about. And in that moment, Harry realized he hadn't just been lied to. He had been set up. But what came next would blow the lid off the palace forever. What if the real betrayal didn't come from your wife or even your brother, but from the very institution that raised you? Harry's mouth went dry. His fingers clenched into fists at his sides. His voice, low, sharp. Say the name again. Meghan hesitated. Her lips trembled. Then she whispered it. Like uttering it aloud would curse them both. Andrew. And in that single breath, the air left the room. Prince Andrew. The disgraced Duke. The royal exile. That Andrew. Harry stared at her like she'd just torn the floor out from under him. No, he said flatly. But Meghan's silence said otherwise. The unthinkable connection. For years, Prince Andrew had been the dark shadow behind the palace curtains. Scandals. Accusations. The Epstein connection. A royal title held together only by the thinnest strings of legacy and silence. But this was something else entirely. Harry's thoughts raced like wildfire. How? When? Why? He looked at Meghan, disbelief etched into his face. How is this even possible? Her voice cracked. I didn't know. Not then. I only found out when I saw a photo later. One I'd never seen before. The photo that changed everything. Meghan said the image came from an anonymous envelope. No return address. It had been mailed to her shortly after Lillibet's birth. At first, she thought it was a threat. Blackmail? A tabloid plant? But when she opened it, her heart stopped. It was a grainy photo, dated 3 years earlier. Her, at a charity event in London. And standing beside her, closer than she remembered, was Prince Andrew, hand on her lower back. A moment she had no memory of. And behind them, someone else. A man in a gray suit, holding a phone. Taking the photo, the night at Windsor. Meghan's memory came flooding back in fragments. She remembered being invited to Windsor Castle for a private dinner hosted by Princess Eugenie, one of the few royals who had welcomed her warmly. Andrew had been there. Meghan recalled he'd been strangely attentive. He offered her wine, kept hovering, asked inappropriate questions masked with compliments. At the time, she brushed it off. Creepy old man behavior, she told Harry. But now she wasn't so sure. The question she was afraid to ask. In the weeks following Archie's birth, Meghan said she began receiving anonymous messages. Untraceable numbers. Some just sent one word. DNA. Others were more cryptic. Check the dates. You're playing with royal fire. You don't even know whose child you're holding. She dismissed them as trolls, until one of them sent a time-stamped clip from security footage at a royal event. Footage no civilian should ever have had access to. It showed Meghan and Andrew leaving a hallway. 10 minutes apart. The date? Exactly 40 weeks before Archie was born. Was Meghan drugged? Now came the most disturbing part. Meghan said she started to wonder. Had something happened that night at Windsor that she didn't remember? A drug slipped into her wine? A blackout? Or was it just trauma rewriting timelines? She didn't want to believe it. But then she said something that made Harry go cold. I've never told anyone this, but I woke up the next morning in a room I didn't recognize. I thought I had just had too much to drink. But now, I'm not sure. Harry gripped the edge of the table. He was shaking. Why would Andrew be protected? That's the question Harry couldn't shake. Why would he, of all people, be allowed anywhere near Meghan? Especially after everything. But then it clicked. Because protecting Andrew meant protecting the monarchy. If Andrew had fathered a child with Meghan, even unintentionally, even unknowingly, it would be the most destructive scandal in royal history. A biracial American woman. A rogue prince. A love child raised by the Queen's grandson. It wasn't just messy. It was nuclear. And the only way to contain it was silence. The palace panic. Now it all made sense. The hushed calls from aides. The pressure on Doria to keep quiet. The blank spots in hospital records. The sudden push for privacy after Lillibet's birth. The bizarre secrecy around the children's christenings. Even the tension with William. Was it really about Megxit? Or was it because he knew something Harry didn't? Something that, if exposed, could tear down not just the House of Windsor, but the very concept of monarchy itself. Harry demands a third test. Unable to breathe, think, or feel, Harry made the call. Dr. Renner answered. I want another test, Harry said. This time with Andrew's DNA. A long pause. Then Renner replied. I was hoping you'd say that. Wait, what? What do you mean? Because I already have it. Harry blinked. How? Let's just say, not everyone inside the palace agrees with keeping this buried. The results. 3 days passed. Harry didn't sleep, didn't eat. He stayed locked in the study, staring at the walls, waiting for the ping on his phone. And then it came. One email. Subject line, confirmation. He opened it, scanned the summary, and froze, because the results were inconclusive. Andrew was not ruled out, but he was not a definitive match, either. There was a genetic connection, but not enough for certainty. That meant only one thing. Andrew could be the father, or someone even closer. The final name. At the bottom of the report was a single chilling note. Recommendation. Further testing advised using immediate royal family members with overlapping Y-DNA markers. Harry read it again. Overlapping Y-DNA markers. A brother? A cousin? An uncle? Or? He stopped breathing. A father? And that's when he realized. If the DNA markers matched that closely, then the real father wasn't just a royal. It might be King Charles himself. His own father. Betrayed by blood. Harry stared at the results like they were written in fire. Everything he thought he knew burned to ash. His wife. His brother. His father. His children. Nothing made sense anymore. Nothing could be trusted. And as he slowly shut his laptop, he whispered just 3 words to himself. I want out. But leaving would come at a price. Because what he'd just uncovered was never meant to be found. And now the palace was watching. Waiting. Plotting. Because the truth was no longer just a family issue. It was a state threat. And what came next would decide whether Harry ever saw his children again. What if your greatest enemy turned out to be your own blood and the most powerful man in the country? King Charles III didn't pace. He didn't scream, didn't throw crystal decanters or storm through Buckingham's corridors like some Shakespearean monarch. No, he sat quietly, fingers steepled under his chin, staring at the classified file that had just been delivered to his private study. It had one word stamped in red across the cover. Escalated. Inside was everything he had feared since the day Meghan Markle entered their world, and now it was all unraveling. Not in the press, not in the public eye, but in the hands of his son. The royal briefing that changed everything. The morning Harry received the inconclusive DNA report, a confidential meeting was held inside Buckingham Palace. Only 5 people attended. King Charles, Camilla, Queen Consort, Sir Julian Welby, Royal Legal Counsel, Lord Chamberlain, and a nameless MI5 liaison known only as Edwin. They were presented with a dossier titled Operation Blush, Paternity Complication, High Sensitivity, Internal Royal Matter. Inside, full breakdowns of all DNA results, including 3 names circled in bold. Harry, Andrew, Charles. He's digging too deep. Charles put on his reading glasses and stared at the genetic markers. He didn't need a doctor to explain it to him. He understood exactly what they implied. He slammed the folder shut. Who leaked the test records to him? He demanded. The MI5 liaison remained silent. Camilla leaned in, voice tight. The question isn't who, Charles. It's how far Harry is willing to go. Sir Julian cleared his throat. If these results go public, if even the possibility of this connection is released, it could destroy the monarchy. The real reason for this slimmed-down monarchy. For years, Charles had pushed for a streamlined royal family. Fewer working royals. More efficient spending. Tighter press narratives. But behind the scenes, the real reason was containment. The fewer people involved, the fewer threats. The fewer wild cards. The fewer secrets to